h4, knight here, e5. Domination really. Central pawns, bishop on b5 dominates the knight, rook e7 dominates rook d8. Every piece is on a beautiful square. Carlsen played Artemiev and Nepom, 2 Blitz games during the World Rapid, and they were both Grunfelds. Both the same variation, bishop c4, launching the pawn with h4. Let's analyse these games very quickly. d4, knight f6, c4, g6, knight c3, d5, Grunfeld, take, e4 with the centre, bishop g7, bishop c4, attack, knight e2, knight c6, and now bishop e3. Castle and h4 played. 82 games in the Chess24 database. Magnus has had this position against MVL in the past, just a few weeks ago, on December 4th. But let's keep this video a bit shorter. We will concentrate on the games against Artemiev and Nepom. Now after h4, queen a5 played and castle. This is the novelty. No games at the moment, but now these 2 Blitz games will be added to the database. This is the novelty by Carlsen. And in this position, there are so many options. Artemiev played bishop d7. Nepom played rook d8, which we will see soon. The other options are actually b6, which means you can go bishop a6 to swap it off. You can take on d4, and then what are you saying? The black queen on a5 has the chance to swing to h5, and also another option will be e6, just guarding the d5 square. Let's have a look at some of these variations after queen a5 castle. Let's firstly look at b6, planning bishop a6 to swap. Let's go queen b3. This is possible because the queen on a5 is not moving anytime soon. The knight on c6 can't go to a5, attacking the bishop on c4, so it is okay to put the white queen here. Now let's have a look at bishop a6, a4, planning bishop b5. Take, you can take, rook c8, queen b5, and maybe white is putting some pressure in the position. White is saying, I want to trade queens on my terms. Play rook to c1, maybe the other rook to d1, and then go e5, just blunting out the g7 bishop. So this is one possible variation. Now instead of b6, let's have a look at cd4, trying to swing the queen, queen h5. Giving black options, the knight can go to a5 now to chase the bishop on c4, queen attacks h4, pawn rook can go to d8 anyway, strike in the center with e5. Maybe this looks okay for black. The h4 pawn is hanging, but this is likely to fall into Carlsen's preparation. Queen d2, you do grab it, and at the same time you are attacking the e4 pawn, so let's defend it. And what is the argument at the moment? The black queen is offside. Rook b1 next, going d5, bishop g5 as well. So there's an offside queen, and very difficult to play this variation if it isn't preparation. Rook d8, rook b1, d5 coming soon, or even bishop g5, bishop e5 threatening mate. Let's just have a look at this sample line. So what? You can block, you put it back, and then d5, e6, d6, b6, very complicated already. Knight can now sit on a5, but I would take white here. So that is just one line. Now what is the other option? Let's look at e6, deliberately guarding the d5 square, always so useful. You can go rook d8 next really. e5, a nice move, just deliberately shutting out the g7 bishop, and because there's a knight on e2, later we can go g3 to e4. Throw in h5 as well. You can go b6, you can go b5. Let's have a look at this one. h5, bishop a6, take, h6, shutting it out, and a4, knight g3. And the white's position is slowly building. Now back to the Blitz game, bishop d7 played by Artemiev, rook b1, queen back to c7, defending, and now h5. Building the pressure, take. I always hate this move, and it's very difficult in the Grunfeld to decide when to play this capture, because what we're saying, the black queen is now exposed on the c file. White can switch it up. This queen can move, and then the other rook, or this rook, can go to the c file. There's always some questions to put to the black queen. Take, white has a nice position here, rook a d8, h6. h takes is also good as well. Knight f4 is a nice way to attack this pawn chain. But in the game, Magnus decided to just attack this g7 bishop. h6 lockdown, bishop back, queen c1, queen back to d2. So a bit of a shuffle there. Queen c1, queen d2, knight a5, drop the bishop back. You have the center, you have the bishop d3, e3 setup, and black has an awful looking knight on a5, b6. If you are interested in further Grunfeld games, I will attach a playlist to this video and as a link in the description below. It will be the Grunfeld playlist, and so far it has featured many losses by MVL. I will add this video to it. Rook c1, move the queen, and now bishop g5. Much superior to the bishop on h8. You attack e7, rook e8. Clever move bishop g5, because after the capture you should take with the queen or the bishop. Queen takes, rook c1, tempo move, and now d5. Highlighting once again the uselessness of the knight on a5. Bishop e5, bishop f4, offering a trade, queen b8, take, and now f4. Cool move, gaining space, and rook on c1 is so powerful. The queen should go back to b8 or to d6. If queen here, then rook c8 might be next, so we could play this typical move, bishop a6, stopping this. Also stopping this knight moving as well. However, in this blitz game, queen h5 played, rook c7, bishop g4, bishop b5. No need to move the knight, let's attack the rook as well, forcing the e8 rook to move. And white is planning to capture a more important pawn, the e7 pawn. Black has used his time to go after the h6 pawn. Well, which pawn is better? The e7 pawn, and we'll see why very soon. Rook f8, you take this, I take this, and d6. This is why. You get a passed pawn. You also get a more active rook. Queen h4, knight here, e5. Domination really. Central pawns, bishop on b5 dominates the knight, rook e7 dominates rook d8. Every piece is on a beautiful square. Queen g3, let's go queen f2, trying to swap off queens and then be completely winning. Queen f2 played in the game. Queen c3, f5, take, queen d4 check, queen f2, queen d5, d7. Planning rook e8, no need to protect the bishop on b5, cool move, and the queen on d5 has to be a defender to the f7 pawn. Queen check, bishop f1, and that's it. Because if you go back to defend on d5, stopping checkmate with queen f7, you go rook e8 and win the rook instead. You just get checkmate even better. King here, queen f6, you take it, it's just mate anyway. Get the other queen in as well. Now, going to the other game against Nepom Niachi, we have the same opening, but how did Nepom improve upon Artemiev's loss? This is the interesting thing. We have the same opening, queen a5 and now castle. Rook d8 was the move played by Nepom. Is there a slight disadvantage to this move? Perhaps, but this is a new line. So who knows at the moment? Queen b3, targeting f7 and now e6. d5, really forcing the play here. Take, bishop takes d5, knight e5, and maybe we're saying the queen on a5 is a bit offside at the moment, time to drop it back later. Rook a d1 played in the game, and now c4. Very important to play c4. Interesting. White wants to play c4, true, but then knight g4 might be a problem here, because you don't want to give up the dark squared bishop, so that's why it is good to move the rook, maybe rook b1 or rook d1. Now in the game, Carlsen chose rook d1, giving black the chance to play c4, which you have to, because if you play a move like retreating queen to c7 or moving the rook and then going b6, let's say, it's really horrible, because white can now go c4. We get this clamp, this super bishop really, just gaining so much space, so difficult to play such a position. So c4 is vital. Queen goes back to b1. Now after bishop c4, this is just a horrible move. Take, and then bishop e6 really. And black is absolutely fine with the double bishop. Typical compensation, down a pawn, but very active in the Grunfeld. Do not take the pawn, queen b1, queen back to c7 and h5. Both games we see this pawn push, knight g4, Great move from Nepom, threatening mate and getting the chance to swap lots of pieces off. Bishop f4, bishop e5, queen c1, bishop e6. Nepom has played well to equalise, lots of pieces coming off. As you can see, the colours that match are the pieces that will come off very soon. Bishop on e6 puts a decision to the bishop on d5, they come off, pawns come off, bishops come off, and now queens come off. Queen on e5 is so active, so Carlsen plays queen f4. Also, queen on e5 is still threatening mate on h2, so queen f4, we're good, take, king f7, f3, knight e3, take, everything coming off, and a draw agreed very soon. Knight d1 check, king e1, take, rook c1, g5. And the players agreed to a draw. Here, a bit strange, I thought black's a little bit better here. After g5, I might be mistaken, knight h3, knight takes a2, rook c4. Do we have a problem here? Well, rook c7 is next, and this pawn is also falling. So if you go king f6, that stops both. Could you go rook a4 here? Check. Oh, that's a cool move. Rook check, king f2, and now check. King e1 maybe? Yeah, that's possible. Knight c3, rook a7, so maybe the pawns do come off. If you enjoyed this video, why not like it and subscribe to the channel at the same time. Plus, hit that bell to get notified each time I release a new video.